After making this video, I thought I ought to give it a preface. In the following video, I show how to make a segmented box and lid using a wedgie sled. If you already know how to turn wood, you will easily see how to make a wedgie sled and how it is used, but if you're new to wood turning, this project might be a little bit beyond the scope of what you need. It is not a wood turning video that would show a beginner how to mount wood on a lathe, what techniques to use, what chisels to choose, how to hold them, and etc. But if you've conquered those techniques, this could be a good project for you. I do a little bit of wood turning, but it's only to show that step of the process. I don't show the details how to mount and turn the box. YouTube has excellent videos available for that. The main purpose of this video is to show how to make the segments and rings that make up this lidded box and give it this quilted look. With that said, here's the video. Hello, I'm Johnny Hare, and today I'm going to, in this video, show you how to make these what I call quilted wood turned box. You need two contrasting woods, and I've used cherry and maple. I like to work with maple and cherry because cherry gets darker over time. This box is older by months, and this is one I just made the other day for this video. And I think that the darker cherry gets, the nicer it gets looking, as opposed to like Purple Heart, which turns gray or brown over time. A cherry gets darker, and I think it's kind of prettier. This project might raise some eyebrows, and hopefully the wood turner gets the perfect question. Hey, how did you do that? That's what wood turners like to hear. Because they see these little bitty pieces, like that, these tiny little things, and say, gosh, did he cut all those little pieces up? And the answer is, sort of, but they're not glued individually. In reality, this is really the perfect project because it looks hard and it's actually quite straightforward. Now in this video, before I do it, I want to show you what you need. You need a table saw, and you need a wedgie sled, which you can get from, you can make your own or you can buy one. All it is something that you can move these back and forth, and they have straight edge, and on the back side it's got the thing that rides down the saw, the table saw. So this is a sled. If you want to make a 12-sided one, you can get a triangle like this and put it in there and move these around until they're touching. I like 16, and so I bought this wedgie Seg-Easy wedgie that's 16 pieces, 22.5 degrees. You put it in there and get this all set. Now this one's set up for 16, and then you cut, as you'll see, from this side and this side back and forth. In case it's a little bit off, you'll make up the difference. And so then you also need a sander. I use this random orbital sander, but I also have a 4-inch bench kind of sander, 4x36, and I also have a drum sander that I'll use in this video, but you don't actually have to have them. You can do everything with a random orbital sander. So table saw, wedgie sled, wedgie, and sander is pretty much all. Then of course glue, and of course you need a lathe to make them round. And so that's what we're going to do in this video. For this project, I cut 7 cherry and 7 maple square strips 13 inches long. You'll need to keep the lengths the same and the thickness of each strip the same. You can experiment with the width of the strips to get different results. I keep thickness and width of the boards the same. In this step, I glued all the strips together to get a striped board. Instead of gluing all 14 boards together. I made two boards of 7 strips each, and since I can't glue perfectly, I had to stop and sand, make them all smooth. Now that they're as smooth as I could get them, I'm going to glue the 2 boards together. I used a table saw miter to get a clean 90-degree flat surface on the end. This is the only time I use it. I use the board itself to set the fence for the next cuts. Okay, as the sticks are going to be cut to be segments, the top, as you push it across, will be squares or rectangles, and the jagged sides will be the part that goes where your fingers are holding it. So the part on the top are the squares and rectangles. It's very important. On this first ring, I do a dry fit to make sure that my technique is okay before I continue. Remember too that to look at the edge should be the jagged sides that make the interesting uh, quilted look. Very important. When you're looking at these segments before you glue them together, make sure that every edge that's to be glued is perfect. If it's not, throw it away. Throw that little chip away and make another one. Because these are segmented and glued everywhere, it's possible that the saw will slip on it or something. I've seen it where there's just about a 64th or so, or even a 32nd of a divot in there, and that'll ruin the glue joints. Before you start a new ring, of course, you adjust the stop so that the ring gets either bigger or littler, or make it the same, whatever you use the shape of your box. Mine usually start small and go up. The rings are complete, but now the top and the bottom of each ring must be smoothed, sanded. If it seems like there's a lot of sanding in this process, that's because there's a lot of sanding in this process. Okay, I'm going to glue the rings together to make a funnel, and later I'll make the top and the bottom. There's 10 or 11,000 ways to squeeze on the parts while they dry, and I chose this one. By the magic of video editing, it's already dry, and now I'll work on making it the top and the bottom. For the top of the box, I find the diameter, cut a square, find the center of that, glue it on, and then chop off the corners. Do the same for the bottom. Now I'll glue the top and the bottom of the box, put it in that press, set it to dry, and then I'll start working on the lid. If the rings in the box or if the top and the bottom are not perfectly aligned, it doesn't matter a whole lot because they're going to fix themselves on the lathe. You're going to fix them on the lathe. Now I'm going to split the remaining glued sticks so that the interesting side, if you will, is up like you see in this thing, and we're shooting for an angle for the lid to be 33.675 degrees. as it ascends to a point. The largest part of the lid should match the same as the largest part of the box, and remember that we're cutting with the square side up, or squares or rectangular sides up, leaving the interesting part as the sides. We make each one of the rings a little smaller than the previous one. I use a piece of sandpaper glued to a piece of wood to clean off the segments in preparation for gluing, and again you have to look at the glued surfaces to make sure that they are perfect before you glue. As you're gluing, it's important to make sure that your surface is clear of paper towel and blue tape and blue heater hose and sycamore blocks and pencils and scissors and white sandpaper and of course sawdust. It's important to keep the area clean. I left all that on there to give you an example of what not to do. Now that the outside of the box is mostly done, I can start cleaning out the inside, and it's already mounted on the 4-jaw chuck as described earlier. The box lid is almost ready. I'm putting some Yorkshire Light grit that I made at home in my spare time, mineral oil, beeswax and 2F pumice stone, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 mixed, and on the stove and all that stuff. So this is nice stuff. Well, this is about the final of this video. I didn't really finish this well. It's not finished yet, but it's close, and you get the idea of it, I think. Take off the lid. I'll show you how the lid and the body fit together. This is a clever little groove, and that's about the end.